Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna 1 minute start with live.
1 minute.
There's no one on YouTube anyway, so we're all good.
Okay.
I got feedback from YouTube. So it was like I could hear what we just said, you
Oh,
know.
really?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
No.
All right. Let's do it like this. Okay, I'll start the webinar. Go on live. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Welcome everybody to today's webinar. We're going to get started in just a moment. So wait for a few more people to join, and we will begin shortly. Please let us know if you can hear me okay, if you have any problems with sound, but I believe we're all good. So the people joining in, we're about 30 seconds away from beginning. Okay, some more people still joining. I'll just check YouTube quickly. Some people on YouTube as well. Yeah, we are live on YouTube as well, and on Zoom webinars. So wherever you're joining from, thank you for joining us. Okay. I believe we can begin. So welcome to our first webinar of the year, Understanding the 2024 HR Landscape. Now, before we begin, I've got a couple of quick housekeeping things to go over. So first of all, really encourage you guys to get involved today. We do have a Q&A session at the end of today's webinar, and there will be some polls throughout today's webinar as well. So I encourage you to be involved with both of those. Those polls will come throughout the webinar, and the Q&A sessions we'll get to at the very end, but feel free to fire your questions into the Q&A section in your control panel on the bottom of the screen. Second of all, this webinar is being recorded. So if you can't make it to the end, or if you'd like to share it with one of your colleagues, you'll receive a link to the webinar tomorrow. So keep an eye out on your inbox for that one. And last but not least, in this webinar, we're going to be following along with the DevSkiller Report 2024. So if you haven't already got that, you can jump on our website. It's available under the Resources tab. I recommend you guys to grab that so you can follow along with the report as we go into today's discussion. We'll be covering different points from the report itself. So yeah, let's quickly just go over the agenda for today. So right after this, I'll introduce our panelists, which I'll be one of them, and Nick I'll introduce very shortly. A bit of a background about the DevSkiller Report 2024. Then we'll open up our extended discussion, a little bit more on that later. And as I mentioned, we'll have the Q&A session at the end of today's discussion. There are around 10 minutes left to go. We'll do our best to get all the questions in. So let's start with introducing our panelists. I'll start. I've been talking already. My name is Justin Lessel. I'm the marketing director at DevSkiller. I've been at the company for a little under 4 years. I've also been involved with writing the DevSkiller report over that period of time. So I co-authored the report this year, and this was actually the sixth time it's been done in general. So thank you very much. Really excited about today's discussion. I'll pass it over to Nick, who can give a quick intro about himself.
Yeah, I'm Nicholas Jones, or Nick Jones, head of customer success and support here at DevSkiller. I've been here for almost 5 years. In that time, with customer success, the entirety of it. So I've spoken with many customers about their recruitment strategies, skills, all of these topics over that time. And yeah, excited to start the webinar.
Yep. We've got a lot to unpack today. We're going to be looking forward to the insights shared from you. Before we do that, I'll just give a quick background about the report. So as I mentioned, this is actually the sixth annual publication for the DevSkiller Report. It's had different names over the years, but essentially it's the DevSkiller Report. We started publishing it back in 2019, and we're at a point now where we're actually doing biannual publications. So last year was the first time we actually did a mid-year report, which will also be repeating this year in 2024. What it is basically aggregated customer data analysis. So what we do is we collect data insights from our platform, from our two solutions, which I'll elaborate on shortly, and compile that into some data insights that you guys can use to help for your talent acquisition, talent management, skills management work throughout the year. We also include some stuff about predictions and outlook. So the skills insights, as I mentioned, are from our two solutions. We have two products, one of which is called Talent Score. It's a technical assessment solution, so it's used for recruitment purposes, for hiring engineers, and screening their coding skills in the recruitment process. The second is called Talent Boost. It's only been on the market for a couple of years, but we've got several customers. It's used for skills management and employee development and these sorts of things as well. We're going to talk about that a little bit further on. Basically, we use all of the data from those two solutions and compile this into this report. I believe it's 18 separate data insights plus some additional stuff in there. So it's 45 pages in length. It's on our website under the resources tab. If you haven't got it already, you can download it there. It's free, of course. So what's inside the report? We always start off by looking at the patterns and trends from 2023. So what happened over 2023, how that sort of affected the different areas in talent acquisition and talent management. Then we break it down into our data sections. So we break that into technology insights, tech candidate behavioral insights, skills management insights, developer seniority insights, and then customer insights. This involves some different stuff about overall usage and also stuff about global hiring and sort of stuff about hiring on international scales and these sorts of things. There's a few insights there, and then we always finish with outlook, predictions, and recommendations for 2024, of which we're going to talk about today. So what's in it for you? Obviously, you get some industry-backed insights into the latest HR trends and technology advancements for talent acquisition and talent management. Help you with some data-driven decision making. So you can leverage comprehensive aggregated data from our platform. So it'll help you in your recruitment and training strategies. And finally, competitive edge. So as I said, we stack lots of information both from our platform and just from our own research as well, which you can use hopefully to shape your talent strategy for 2024. And I hope this webinar will also help in that regard as well. So we are going to open up our discussion. Now, it's a little bit different to how we usually do this. So if you've ever joined a DevSkiller webinar before, you'll find that I'm usually the one asking the questions and we speak to our panelists. We're doing a little bit different. So we're going to do a tit for tat kind of format this time. I'll be answering some questions as I authored the report, and Nick will be providing his insight from his customer experience as well. So we're going to kind of go back and forth as we go along. So we've also got the polls in there as well, as they'll be coming throughout the webinar, as I said. So let's open it up. And actually, this first question is for you, Nick. So very simply, what was your biggest surprise or takeaway from this year's report?
Actually, so the overtaking of JavaScript by Java as the most popular programming language for our customers. The reason this is surprising is because JavaScript is connected to any web application. So regardless of the backend, there's usually some kind of JavaScript used. But it's still, it makes sense, I guess, in a sense, depending on which customers are using Java versus JavaScript. But yeah, JavaScript being overtaken because I believe it's been in the lead for the existence of the report, so that the entirety of it. So this is the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah. I think we have somewhat consistency in the top 5 of the technologies that we collect from Talent Score in terms of what our customers are testing for, and it tends to be between Java and JavaScript in the top 2. SQL always seems to make an appearance. I believe this year we had PHP and data science. That was section 1.1 of the report, if you're following along with us. So yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, so this question is for you, Justin. What is the biggest change you've noticed in the data compiled over the past 6 years?
Yeah, so there's actually 3 things I want to talk about. First of all, I've been a part of publishing this for 4 years. So I think the clearest thing that you'll notice if you've downloaded the report, if you've seen one of our reports in the past, it's very indicative of market conditions. So what we publish in the report is a true indication of how the market was over that past year. We collect data. It's published as the 2024 report, but it's essentially all the data from 2023 from our platform. So this is a snapshot of 2023. That's why we publish it in January every single year. And we'll be publishing one in July this year to look at the first 6 months of 2024 to help you for the second half of 2024. So one example is we always, I think we've done it for the last couple of years, where we talk about the candidate uptake. So basically, from a technical assessment sent to a candidate, what's the percentage of them that actually completed? So last year we had a record number. It was 99% basically versus around 92% the year before. I think that's very telling about market conditions last year. We obviously know there was hiring freezes, layoffs, particularly in tech. It was very much an employer's labor market versus an employee's market in 2022. So you can see that candidates were really taking the assessments sent to them seriously last year, probably because they were actually at that point where they'd either lost their job or they were seriously in fear of losing it and moving to another job. In years past, particularly with tech talent, there's been a plethora of job opportunities, so they can just kind of willy-nilly take the assessment they want to. It might be just for a bit of interest or whatever. There wasn't so much seriousness paid to it. So this is really quite telling that we had such a high uptake rate, like almost 100% of the assessments sent. That's quite a high number versus years past. Second thing I want to talk about is the increase in senior developer testing. So there's a little bit of a sort of misconception, I would say, or there's kind of like a narrative that senior developers don't take technical assessments. They won't take technical assessments. And this is probably partially true, and I'll get to that in a second. But what we've reported last year is basically nearly 41% of all the tests sent on our platform last year were for senior developers. That's versus 31% in 2022. So it's pretty clear that even though you might hear someone saying, "Oh, we can't send a test to a senior developer because they're not going to take it," but we've been collecting this over 2023, and there's almost a 10% increase year over year. That being said, it's really important to keep in mind when we're talking about assessing senior engineers who are reluctant, but let's be honest, probably reluctant to take it, but still take it. It's important that the assessment itself is designed for them. So it doesn't include, basic programming questions and for stuff that's for junior roles, because that's immediately going to be a red flag for a senior engineer. We're actually going to talk a little bit about assessing different developers with seniority, which Nick's going to cover later on in the discussion. So that's important to keep in mind. And the third thing, and this is a little bit of a shameless plug, but I think it also is really reflective of the development of our platform. So as I said, I published 4 of these. I think the first one I did was in 2020, which was looking at the data from 2019. And basically, it's really cool to see how the data insights that we've provided has evolved over the years. So we launched Talent Boost in 2022. So before that, we'll purely focus on technology insights, tech candidate insights. We've been able to sort of evolve the report as our platforms evolved and share really cool insights on like soft skills, skills development, most acquired skills. So looking at the reskilling and upskilling. And as I said, we're trying to build on that every single year. So we're publishing one in July, and I'm really, really looking forward to how that's going to happen in July and where the report goes from here. So so basically that's, I guess, a little bit of change, but also more of my reflection about how the report's shaped up over the years. But it's definitely become a really valuable resource, and I hope it's helpful for everybody here on the webinar and those who see it online. So let's move forward. So I did have a poll, and this bloody thing keeps jumping around on me. So let's just open up our first poll for today, which will be here. So let me save it and launch it. Give me one moment, guys. This is playing up on me. So you should see the poll pop up on your screen now. And the question is, which in-demand skills do you think will be most crucial for HR to focus on in 2024? We have technical skills in AI and machine learning, soft skills like leadership and communication, data analysis and interpretation skills, data literacy and cybersecurity awareness, project management and organizational skills, or other. This is a single choice question. So what do you believe will be most crucial is the critical wording in this question here. I can only see about a third of you have voted so far, so please fire in your votes. Unfortunately, if you're watching on YouTube, you can't do this, but you can still sign up and get into Zoom. This is only for Zoom participants, unfortunately, but still only about halfway. So if you're just listening in, drop in an answer. I'll give it 10 more seconds. A few more. Thank you for that. And 2 more seconds. Okay, that's 1 minute. Let's end the poll. And I'll share the results, which should appear on your screen right now. So which in-demand skills do you think will be the most crucial for HR to focus on in 2024? We had 38% with technical skills in AI and machine learning, 29% data analysis and interpretation skills. And we had votes as well for soft skills like leadership and communication, and digital literacy and cybersecurity awareness. It's very good. And thank you for sharing those insights. I believe we're going to cover a lot of what was voted on in that poll today, as is in the report. So I will go to our next question, Nick. So these next couple are actually going to be for you. So how can HR professionals adapt their recruitment strategies to attract candidates with in-demand skills, as we've seen from the poll? Please elaborate.
Yeah. So the easy answer is always competitive compensation, but obviously this isn't always an option. So I think focusing on their skills rather than credentials will be important in the future, as skills are the half-life deteriorates quickly. So in-demand skills may not even exist right now. So you can't expect people to have some credential in this skill. The other thing is building their employer branding. These are always a good way to attract candidates. I would say you probably don't want to use unedited AI generated automated outreach. This seems obvious as well. And really just yeah, these are the big things. Understand the skills that you're recruiting for, right? So when a recruiter is speaking to a technical person and they have no understanding of what the skills are they're discussing, it doesn't appeal to the technical person, right? So it can be a turn off. So these are the biggest things I think you can focus on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wanted to add a little bit on that. I think we've done several discussions over the years with people from HR backgrounds, from technical backgrounds. We actually ran a 3-part webinar series called DevRec. I believe it was back in 2022, where we sort of took either side of the coin perspective about this sort of this point here about adapting, recruitment strategies and stuff like this. But one of the things that came up from a technical perspective is sharing insight on the types of projects that they'll be working on. So it's obviously one of the things that is commonly discussed is getting bogged down in mundane, monotonous work, particularly from a technical perspective. This is like a pretty much surefire way that you're going to get disgruntled employees, and it's going to lead to talent churn, basically. So if you have the opportunity to advertise the kind of work that they're going to be working on, and also the opportunity to try something in another area, so basically develop their skills somewhere else, it's going to provide this variety in their professional career, which will help you retain talent and also keep them engaged, basically. I think the second thing as well is that the talent market is changing. It was Forbes recently published a statistic, which we quoted in the report, that by 2025, 75% of the workforce is going to be made up of millennials. So basically, it's a little bit different to what people might think. They think with millennials that they think of 2000. Millennials goes all the way back to 1981. So it makes sense that millennials make up 75% of the workforce. So that means you need to understand who you're targeting and what's important for them, basically. So things like emphasis on flexible work and remote work, e-learning opportunities, even something like reverse mentoring. These are things that are really important, I think, to consider when you're talking about attracting candidates as well. In addition to obviously with the skills that you need, understand who you're talking to and what you need to do to convince them to to take the job. Basically, these are really important to consider as well. So yeah,
there's one other thing I would add: shortening the time to hire. I mean, this is the KPI for all recruiters, but people want to know whether or not they're going to be interviewed further quickly, and then if they're removed from the process quickly. So the faster you can do this, the less time there's a waste. This is always good, right?
Yep, 100%. Let's move on. So I keep jumping around 2 screens, so my cursor doesn't know where it's at. So I'll stay with you, Nick, for this question. You can lead off on this one. So considering accelerated digital transformation, what are some key skills HR should focus on for upskilling and reskilling their employees?
Yeah, so my take of this question is that it's for the digital transformation of the organization. And this is industry dependent to a degree. But I would say skills like cybersecurity, cloud computing, big data, these are all going to be used anytime you're moving to a more digital workforce, right? Agile, which I think the skills report shows is a very popular skill right now. So organizations will have to be agile to transform digitally, right? So these are the main things I would say to this question. Yeah, for me.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it on the last on the last question there as well. It's also something to consider here when we're talking about upskilling and reskilling. There's 2 things that I wanted to elaborate on. First of all, technology is advancing so quickly, so it's changing the demand for skills at an accelerated pace. I think it was we referenced this in one of our previous reports or previous ebooks, which was IBM quoted the average half-life of skills. I found something in preparation for this webinar published by Harvard Business Review, which basically says the half-life of skills is less than 5 years, and in some cases even less than 2.5 years. So when you're talking about upskilling and reskilling, it's really important to understand that the demand for skills is moving so quickly that the skills you need today might be completely different in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You can see this like from an example, like a telecommunications company, which obviously had completely shifted their business model towards providing basically phone service to internet service, right? So this is like a common example. Um, Another important point here is that you need to understand the as is state in order to get to the to be state. So we use these terms at DevSkiller as is to be, basically, when we're talking with our customers in terms of upskilling and reskilling and skills management in general. In order to get to the to be state, you need to understand the skills that you have within your organization first and foremost. To do that, you need to map your skills. You can't really go anywhere without understanding the kind of skills that you have. And then it will help you to answer questions like, where do we have skills? Where do we need skills? Where do we lack skills? What are our skills gaps, etc. So taking the example of AI, and we're going to talk about this more and more as we go along in the webinar, but that's for good reason, because AI is just everywhere at the moment. But if we talk about AI, a good question to ask is, do we lack skills which will be automated by AI anyway? So that's a good thing, right? Because if AI is going to automate it, then we don't need skills there. On the flip side, do we have the majority of skills in areas that will be automated by AI? That's problematic, because if everybody's doing the stuff that AI is going to automate anyway, then you're kind of in trouble. So the only way you can do that is to begin by mapping the as is state to get to this to be state, and then you can focus on the skills needed to upskill and reskill. So this is, I think, two important nuggets to add on the end of that. I don't know, Nick, if there's anything else you wanted to add here.
Yeah. So also with this as is state, so one of the benefits of mapping your skills of your organization is when you're looking at these states you need to be in, you'll find roles that have overlapping skills with this. So it might not be all of the skills of this role, but some of them will overlap with these skills that you need in the future. And these would be the people you would target for reskilling and upskilling. So you can identify these people easier by mapping out the organization skills. Yeah.
Yeah, and the relationship between the skills themselves as well. So
Exactly.
something like a software developer, like a Java developer, probably has some of the prerequisite skills to reskill into a DevOps engineer or cloud engineer or whatever it might be. And that doesn't only relate specifically to tech. Obviously, tech is something close to us, but this relates to all sorts of different departments as well. So
Exactly, like a recruiter or a salesperson might have some overlap, right? So
yeah, precisely. Yeah, and even on the soft skills side, someone that's
exactly.
and some of those skills would 100% correlate between a recruiter and a salesperson, no question. So yeah, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, no, sorry. So let's move forward. We've got another poll, but it's a little bit down the road.
Yeah. So this question's for you, Justin. What are some emerging technologies and how will they impact talent acquisition and management in 2024?
Yeah, so we have an entire section. I mean, the entire report is basically looking at all different skills. Obviously, we have a pretty heavy emphasis on technical skills. I'm going to leave the nitty gritty stuff alone, like programming languages and stuff like that. But first and foremost, I think it's pretty clear that AI is the one that's going to have the most impacts on everybody in 2024. It already has had an impact so far in 2023, and even since ChatGPT has been released. I wanted to read a couple of statistics to sort of capture why the scale of how quickly AI is moving. So basically, as of 2023, the AI global market size is worth an estimated $454 billion. It's predicted to contribute to 21% net increase to the US GDP by 2030. And I believe the current growth statistics is around 19%. So if we continue at that pace of 19% global growth year over year, the AI market could exceed 2.5 trillion by 2032. So in 8 short years, we could be seeing the market quintuple in size, which is pretty crazy. So it's pretty clear that AI is going to be the probably single greatest, like biggest technology that's going to impact not just talent acquisition, talent management. I work in marketing, it impacts marketing, customer success, sales, every department AI is going to impact. But looking at talent acquisition first, there's a couple of things that spring to mind when you talk about how AI can impact this. So something like sourcing. AI algorithms can literally very quickly sort through huge quantities of data to find profiles and match candidates that match the job description. Something that, you know, if a human was to do that, it would take literally hours or weeks to do it accurately. AI, there's tools out there that are already doing this sort of really quick matching stuff with AI and just processing huge chunks of data in one. we have something close to our hearts, as say at DevSkiller, where we have our talent score solution, which is a technical assessment solution. We have an AI benchmarking engine, which basically uses predictive analysis to determine the likelihood of a candidate to succeed. So basically, we collect all of the answers and different data points from what the different candidates are being tested for on the platform, compare that, and then give you a score to say this is what we believe the likelihood of this candidate is going to succeed and going to progress in your recruitment process. So this is something that we've already had for a while, and you're going to see more and more of these sorts of AI applications come into tools like ours and other HR tools out there. From a talent management perspective, it's kind of a similar thing. So you can talk about predictive turnover analysis or analytics, should I say. So AI, same thing as the sourcing. It can literally just process such huge quantities of data that basically can help you predict and find patterns that will say, okay, this person's likely that he or she is going to leave the company. Can give us a warning sign early on, or something like personalized employee development is another thing where you can actually see trends and spot trends in similarities between candidates. Sorry, should I say employees? Basically, we could say there's a likelihood like this person could do with X training or Y training, whatever it might be. So these are definitely going to be some applications we're going to see from our perspective as well. We're developing different AI generated features on our tool. One of which that is currently being worked on is to help generate job descriptions. So we can use AI to process employee data and skill data that's relevant to a certain job position, so they can automatically create a job description for say, okay, we need to hire for this person. We know these are the skills that are needed. We need to put this on the job description, stuff like this. This is stuff that we're working on at DevSkiller, and you're going to see more and more and more of these sorts of AI applications coming along, I think, in the coming year for sure, and more and more. As AI gets bigger and greater, I think it was ChatGPT, I think they added something ridiculous, like getting to 100 million revenue in the quickest time in history,
100
right?
million users. Yeah.
No, 100 million, yeah, not 100, yeah, it was 100 million users in
Fastest
like
growth of users, yeah.
fastest growth, yeah, and you can see the statistics on ChatGPT. I think we quoted one in the report as well, which Udemy, which is the training program, basically said there was a 4,400% increase year over year for ChatGPT training. So like, and ChatGPT is one. There's going to be more. There's Google's obviously got Bard. There's going to be more and more tools like that can be used to sort of optimize solutions, and just using AI in general to optimize these HR solutions as well. So I think that's definitely the case. I don't know. Do you want to add anything here?
Yeah, I don't want to go on too much about AI, but I think it will also accelerate learning and development, reskilling and upskilling. You can see this with Khan Academy implementing generative AI into their learning materials and learning platforms. For talent acquisition, particularly, I would say, so software like Gong took the sales world by storm, and it's like call recording software with analytics on, for instance, how long you wait between someone else speaking before you speak. So it gives you insights like this, and I expect this to move into talent acquisition as well. So reviewing your interview calls to see how you can do better, because this is the best way to improve some of the soft skills that you'll see. Yeah, so those are the things I would say at a glance.
Yeah. I think I forgot to mention. I mean, AI and machine learning, obviously, one of the big ones, but there's even several others that you can think of as well. I mean, one that we also mentioned in the report is blockchain. And blockchain, I think, for many people, they associate blockchain with cryptocurrency only, and that's not the case. And that's also probably not the only reason why we saw blockchain have the second most year-over-year growth. We published a statistic in the report. It's section 1.2 of the report, which is fastest growing technology on the platform. In 2022, blockchain led the way, I think, by a comfortable distance. And then last year, it was the second fastest growing. So even though it cracked the nut last year in terms of fastest growing, it was second again this year in terms of faster growing from last year. So blockchain is something else that you could probably see being used in wider applications. So people think obviously it's only cryptocurrency, but it has applications outside of it: supply chain management, compliance, security, these sorts of things. You could probably see, there's a very likely chance you can see these sorts of things make their way into HR systems, talent acquisition and talent management systems as well. So, but I think, yeah, the one that certainly is the no question going to have the biggest impact is AI and machine learning, no, for sure. So, all right. So thanks for that response there, Nick, as well. I believe now, if I'm not mistaken, it is time for our second poll. We've got 3 polls in total, so this is the middle poll. Let me just open it up very quickly and launch, which will appear on your screen now. He's going to preface our next question as well, which Nick will be tackling. So, when recruiting developers, which level of experience do you find most challenging to assess and hire for? We've got a few responses here: entry-level developers, mid-level developers, senior developers, specialist developers like AI and blockchain, which we just mentioned, or all levels present equal challenges, which, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be votes for that one as well, because let's be honest, it's not exactly a walk in the park to hire engineers at any time. So I'll let the votes roll through. I can see more of you voting than last time, which is good, but there's still a few more to come in. I'm going to let it run for a minute. So got about 15 seconds left. So if you're listening in, drop in a vote, and then I'll end the poll and share the results. We'll jump into our next question. Okay, almost there. Interesting. Okay, end poll, share the results. So when recruiting developers, which level of experience do you find most challenging to assess and hire for? So leading the way with 45% is specialist developers, for example, AI and blockchain. We got votes as well for senior developers, which is no surprise there, with 30%, and equal 10% votes for all levels present equal challenges, mid-level developers as well. And then we also got some votes for entry-level developers with 5%. Now, we do have a question here, but feel free to run with this where you like, Nick. But basically, what strategies can be employed to effectively assess and recruit developers at different experience levels? And feel free to sort of run with this based on the poll results there. Maybe starting with, however you like.
Yeah.
So, because
yeah, no problem. Yeah, so regardless of the seniority level, I would say you probably want to do some form of coding assessment, be it human graded or automatically graded. You do need to know whether or not the developer can code. It's not unheard of to see people with years of experience that can't code. There are stories of this all over the internet. So some form of coding assessment, even if it's very basic. I would say the other thing is for technical interviews, you want to find someone who enjoys doing the technical interviews, because if the person enjoys doing the technical interviews, it will rub off on the candidate. The candidate gets a better candidate experience, and overall the process will be smoother. And yeah, so you also remove the developers who don't like doing it, which that can rub off on the candidate as well. So lower the candidate experience. For this specialist developers, because I see this was a part of the poll. For blockchain, I can't give too much advice here. I think there's some overlap with so I can't give advice on blockchain. We do have assessments for blockchain, so that this is available through our tool, but you probably can find some coding exercises or something like this on the internet. Excuse me, let me clear my throat, my voices.
No worries.
For more senior developers, you have to be mindful of their time. If they're senior, they're more likely to have plenty of opportunity. Even now with the market the way it is, you still want to be mindful of their time. So don't give them long tests. Don't push them into many interview stages. So you don't want to have them to do 5 interviews before they get to the role. It's also dependent on your employer brand, right? People are willing to do more depending on your brand. So if you're a really respected company, or if you have very high compensation, developers are willing to jump through more hoops, right? So so less time of theirs you're taking, and some coding assessment, some type of coding assessment. With seniors, you probably want to do some system design interview questions as well. Again, you can find these all over the internet. So, or you can design them specifically for your organization.
Yeah, I think I just brings to mind two points I wanted to sort of add on the end of it. The first one was about the votes for the junior developers. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges with that is ChatGPT basically negating the need, let's say, for junior developers. We've done a whole ebook and a webinar on this topic alone, but I think one of the things which is important, especially when it comes to coding assessments, is understanding the ChatGPT security features, which is something that we take to heart here at DevSkiller that we've been adding. So that's obviously concern and being able to ensure that people aren't using ChatGPT to skate through the assessments, because it can really cover up the cracks basically of a developer first and foremost. The second thing which I wanted to add, which is we've also discussed over the years, as I mentioned at the top, we talked about this DevRec series, which we did. And the truth of the matter is, when hiring an engineer, obviously you need a technical person, but you need an HR person as well. So you need two people from different departments, from completely different backgrounds, to be able to work together. So that's really critical, because you mentioned that having a hiring manager that's into the recruitment process is pretty important, but that's part one. You also have to have someone who's able to cooperate very well with a HR person. And from the flip side, the HR person needs to be able to cooperate with the hiring manager and complement each other's skills rather than kind of butting in the way. So obviously the technical person is going to take care of the technical interview, vetting the coding skills and stuff like that. HR person's there to validate their soft skills, their likelihood to fit in the company. So complementing each other in this regard is really, really critical as well, in addition to the stuff that you mentioned. So I think that's just an important nugget to add as well. Yes, so let's move forward.
So this question is for you. What are some of the biggest challenges facing HR this year?
Yeah, so I believe actually this is the last question we have for our scheduled questions. So if you have any Q&A questions that you'd like to fire in, feel free to do that if you haven't done so already. We'll do our best to answer them live here on the webinar. Also, I want to preface this, I'll get to the question in a second. I want to preface that we have an entire section in the report where we look at our outlook for 2024. So I'm not going to go into these outlook points that we've got in the report. I wanted to sort of elaborate a little bit further on that, but that's towards the end of the report. So if you've got it there, flick to the very back pages of the report, you'll find our predictions for 2024 and outlook basically. But the two that I wanted to circle down on were uncertain market conditions. And we kind of talk about this in the report, but we had the angle of recession. So there was a lot of uncertainty about last year if there's going to be a recession. There's still a little bit of belief that the recession might be delayed and being pushed into 2024. So far, it doesn't look like that, but that's sort of still unclear. But what is still unclear is the market conditions, specifically if we're talking about hiring. So we know all the major tech players had layoffs and hiring freezes. Most companies had some capacity of layoffs, particularly in the tech space. So this was one of the biggest challenges from 2023, but it's kind of dragged into 2024 as well, because no one's actually certain when that's going to return to normal and what it's going to look like when it returns to normal as well. So there's certainly going to be some uncertainty about hiring, which makes a really big impact on HR people, because how they're going to plan, how they're going to, strategize quarter over quarter, basically. Okay, we need to focus on this area. What are we going to do? That's going to be a problem that is already being faced by HR people towards the end of January, and it's still not any further clearer. I think just one quick thing on this, because I know you're going to elaborate on this, Nick, afterwards, but it kind of exacerbates the need for reskilling and upskilling of valued employees, because if you're unsure if there's going to be budget or hiring, or if there's still a complete hiring freeze, what you do know is that you have employees in your company that have the potentially to move into areas where you need it. So this is going to sort of exacerbate the need for reskilling and upskilling of valued employees. In addition to everything we mentioned about the evolving nature of skills and stuff like that, this is just specific to uncertainty with hiring, because if you can't hire, you can still internally hire. We talk about internal hiring at DevSkiller all the time. It's something that we help our customers with. They use our technical assessment solution to vet employees' skills so that they can move them into other areas. So this is really important. The second thing I wanted to mention is striking the balance between AI and human qualities. So we talked a lot about AI and machine learning and these technologies and the impact that they're going to have or that they are already having on HR. But as AI becomes more and more developed, which it certainly is already, it's as someone who wants to progress their career in HR and improve efficiency, you need to use AI, and you should be using AI to improve efficiency. So streamlining processes in talent acquisition, in sourcing, in screening, whatever it is. We mentioned the different applications for AI at the beginning. So 100% you should be using AI to improve stuff. However, you need to find the right balance between how much you use AI and what human qualities are still pivotal for the role. HR is such an important role for so many other reasons outside of, improving efficiency that AI and machines will never be able to do. So stuff like creative and critical thinking, judgment, emotional intelligence, empathy, these sorts of things, which a machine's never going to be able to do, that are critical for the HR role. Have to be careful not to tip over the edge and allow AI to do everything. You mentioned the point about the job, what was it, the email, basically the outreach
Automated
emails, like
outreach, yeah.
automated outreach. So if you just allow AI to write these emails that have no personalization, no nothing, you know what I mean, it's going to quickly impact your job. So finding that balance between using AI but ensuring that human quality is going to be for sure going to be a challenge. And as AI becomes more and more developed, it's going to become more and more, I don't want to use tempting, because obviously you should be using it, but there is that risk that it's going to tip over too far, and it's going to certainly going to impact the role, no question. So I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything here, Nick.
Yeah. So you said that AI won't deal with critical thinking and things like this, but it could in the future. Maybe not in the immediate future, but this
true.
could be a change.
No question.
I wanted to reiterate the understanding and the existing skills of your organization to stay competitive. So with technology disruptions increasing, the desire of employees to change and modify their career paths will increase, because people's jobs will be affected by AI, and they will need to learn other skills, and they will want to move from a career path if it seems like it will be automated to some degree. If you want to retain talent, you'll have to adapt to this factor. The other thing I thought of when you were talking about the layoffs, so there are a lot of developers that are on the market now for jobs that came from big organizations, big companies, and you still need to vet these candidates. Just because they worked at Google doesn't mean that they're necessarily the best software engineer. Do they hire good talent by default because they offer high compensation, so they have an incentive to do so? Yes, but that doesn't mean that every developer at Google is a star. So this is something to consider when you're hiring developers who have left or been laid off in these organizations. And I'm not saying that they were laid off because of their skills. It's just a big grab bag of people, so you never know.
For sure. Okay, I can see one question that in the Q&A, and we'll get to that very shortly. But I do have one more poll, and this one's a little bit different. We haven't done this before, but it's basically want to collect some insights about what kind of topics and webinars you'd like to see us cover in the future at DevSkiller. So I'm going to launch this on the screen. It's a little bit different. You need to write the answer, but question's simple. What topics would you like us to see cover in the future what topics would you like us to see us cover in future webinars? It's very poorly worded. I apologize for that. So basically, what topics would you like to see us cover in the future at DevSkiller? Feel free to write in any suggestions. We'll take them all on board. We do have some a webinar scheduled next month in February with a company called Workable, which is an ATS, one of our ATS integration partners. We're going to be looking a little bit further into the topic of reskilling and upskilling. That one's scheduled for February 22nd. And we tend to run webinars every month. So we're going to be doing all sorts of topics this year. We'd love to hear your insights. If you can't think of anything right now, feel free to write into us at hello@DevSkiller. You can also leave us suggestions. And we'll do our best to cover and continue to provide you guys with insightful content. So I can see a couple of votes. I'll give it a little while because I know you need to write the answer this time. So I'll give it another 20 seconds or so, and I'll end the poll, and we'll review that after the webinar. Okay, there's a few of you voting. I appreciate that, everybody. It can be something specific to your role or something just in general that you'd like to see us cover. We also have a lot of resources already available on our website, so feel free to check that out under our resources tab. I keep going to end the poll, but I keep seeing responses, so I'm going to just hold on for a little bit longer. I'll let it run for 2 minutes, so 20 more seconds, everybody, and I need to end the poll. So keep firing them in. Really appreciate you guys doing that. Okay, I feel like that might be everyone. So I'll end the poll. And that should be ended. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's move into Q&A. Nick, I'm I'll go to you, but I'm also happy to jump on this one. How do you prefer? Have you seen the question here? The question is, how can we see if someone used ChatGPT while making their assessment? When will the security feature be implemented for use? I'm
Yeah,
happy to
so
take it
this
because
yeah, so
yeah,
this is a
you go.
difficult one. We have removed the ability to copy questions or copy text from inside an assessment. Uh, we plan on adding something to track whether someone copied or pasted something into an assessment, or so something like this.
Hmm.
But the difficulty here is that ChatGPT has a phone app. Um, AI can't detect whether AI is used, right? So even OpenAI has created some form of LLM that tracks whether or not some output is from an LLM, and it's not accurate. So this is a difficult situation. But I would say any assessment that has more complexity, so where you need to change more files rather than one single file, these are going to be much more resilient to ChatGPT in general. I would say also that using ChatGPT is not always a bad thing. 75% of developers use it on the job daily. So a developer who can use AI and it speeds up their productivity is a good developer. You wouldn't want to turn this person away necessarily. But yeah,
Hmm.
I understand. Yeah. So this is the answer, short answer I have here.
Yeah, sure. I was just going to add as well. We're publishing every month. We're updating all of our customers and about features that are being released or upcoming features that comes every single month. We've already, I think it was in December we did the update about some of the latest ChatGPT features that we're adding. This is something that we're very well aware of at DevSkiller. We're continuing to sort of add processes and security features to help with that. But yeah, I think it's important to reiterate that there is an element of using it in the daily job, like Stack Overflow before and Google before. Developers were using these sorts of tools in the first place, but obviously we're trying to minimize this use and provide the most accurate assessment of the candidate. So yeah, so keep an eye out on those, and we're going to continue working on that here at DevSkiller. I apologize for my screen dropping before, but the poll, I was trying to just grab these poll results to check all of your responses to the upcoming topics, which I was managed to grab. So I appreciate that. Um, I don't see there's any more questions here. But if you do have anything more you'd like to ask either Nick or myself or someone at DevSkiller, feel free to do so. I'll just pop this up on the screen as well. So you can fire them into us at hello@devskiller.com and visit our website at devskiller.com as well. If you haven't got the report that we were talking about today as well, that's available on the resources tab. We will be publishing another one at the mid-year point. So we're going to have a look at the snapshot of 2024. So we can also check to see some of the predictions that we had for the year, if they were correct or if we were a mile off or somewhat close. So this is why we'd like to do this as regularly as possible, provide as much interesting content we can and useful content as we can over the course of the year. But that's basically time for us. So I wanted to say a big thanks to everybody for joining. And I encourage you guys to keep an eye out on your inboxes for, first of all, the recording, which will be coming tomorrow. Second of all, we'll be sending probably invitations to our next webinar in the coming couple of weeks. So keep an eye on for that one. And we'll be doing them every month, as I said, across the whole year of 2024. And last but not least, I want to thank a big thanks to Nick for first time doing one of these webinars. I really appreciate your time for doing this, mate.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for
So
having me.
thank you. So thank you everybody once again. And yeah, see you next time on our next